He said it was just business, as he took away my entire world. He said it with a calm, almost fatherly smile. The same smile he'd used for years to tell me I was the future of his company. But this time, the smile didn't reach his eyes. His eyes were cold like polished stones. And in that moment, I learned a valuable lesson. When someone says it's just business, what they really mean is, it's only your life we're destroying, not mine. My name is Leo, and for 10 years, I wasn't just an employee at Vance Tech. I was its engine. I was the lead software architect. The flagship product that made our boss, Arthur Vance, a celebrated tech mogul. It was called Nexus. And Nexus was my baby. I wrote the first line of code in my tiny apartment on a beat-up laptop. I nurtured it, refined it, and built a team around it that was more like a family than a group of colleagues. Arthur loved to tell the story of how he discovered me. He'd put his arm around my shoulder at company events, his voice booming for all to hear. This young man here, Leo, he's the soul of Vance Tech, a true visionary. He made me believe I was indispensable. He made me believe we were building a legacy together. I bought into it completely. I worked weekends, missed holidays, poured every ounce of my creativity into his company. I took out a mortgage on a house I could barely afford, confident in the bonuses and promotions Arthur had promised were just around the corner. My mom was sick, and the company's top-tier health insurance was the only thing keeping us afloat. My life was woven into the fabric of Vance Tech. Then came the meeting. It was a Tuesday. I was called into Arthur's glass-walled office on the top floor. The view of the city was incredible. A view I always thought symbolized how far we'd come. He was standing by the window, looking out. He didn't turn around when I walked in. "Leo," he said, his voice unusually somber. "Have a seat." I sat, my heart starting to thud a little faster. This felt different. He finally turned, and that's when I saw the smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We have to make some tough decisions," he began. "The market is shifting. We need to streamline, restructure for the future." He used a lot of corporate buzzwords. It was like he was trying to bury the real message under a pile of meaningless jargon. I just stared at him, waiting for him to get to the point. "As part of this restructuring," he said, finally looking me in the eye, "we've had to make some deep budget cuts, and unfortunately, your position has been eliminated." The words hung in the air. Eliminated. It was such a sterile, inhuman word, as if I was a line item on a spreadsheet that could just be deleted. I couldn't speak. My mind was a whirlwind of confusion. The mortgage, my mom's medical bills, my team, my life's work. "Arthur, what are you talking about?" I finally managed to stammer. "Nexus is more profitable than ever. We just landed the K-Corp account. That was a huge win." He sighed, walking over to his desk and sitting in his plush leather chair. He steepled his fingers, looking at me with that look of feigned sympathy. "Leo, I know this is hard to understand. You've been a tremendous asset, truly, but these decisions are made at a level above projects and profits. It's about long-term corporate strategy. So my 10 years of service, the all-nighters, building this company from the ground up, that means nothing." My voice was shaking, a mix of disbelief and a new hot feeling of anger. He leaned forward, his expression hardening just a little. "Don't take it personally, son. It's not about you." He paused, and then delivered the line that would echo in my head for months. "It's just business." My security escort was already waiting outside his door. I was walked to my desk, given a cardboard box, and watched like a hawk as I packed up my few personal belongings. My team members looked on, their faces a mixture of shock and fear. They knew if I could be eliminated, none of them were safe. I couldn't even say a proper goodbye. As I was walked out of the building, past the giant Vance Tech logo I had helped make famous, I felt a humiliation so profound it was like a physical illness. The weeks that followed were a living nightmare. The severance package was a joke, barely enough to cover a couple of months' expenses. My specialized skills, which made me a star at Vance Tech, made it hard to find a similar role elsewhere. Every potential employer would ask the same question: why would Vance Tech let go of the architect of their most successful product? I had no good answer. The budget cuts excuse sounded flimsy even to my own ears. The rejection emails piled. The bank started calling about the mortgage. My mom's health took a turn for the worse, and the fear of losing her insurance was a constant crushing weight on my chest. I felt like a failure. Arthur hadn't just fired me. He had erased me. I was a ghost. He had made me a ghost. I fell into a dark place. Days blurred together. I'd just sit in my silent house, the cardboard box from my old office sitting in the corner like a tombstone. One night, unable to sleep, I found myself scrolling through tech news, a habit I couldn't break. And that's when I saw it. An article with a picture of Arthur, that same smug smile on his face. The headline read, "Vance Tech unveils Project Chimera, the next evolution in data solutions." My blood ran cold. Project Chimera, that was my name for it. It was the next generation concept I had been developing. It was a revolutionary idea, far more advanced than Nexus. I had only ever discussed it with one person. I had pitched it to Arthur in his office, just 3 months before he fired me. I had shown him the preliminary framework, the core concepts, the potential it had to change the industry. He had seemed intrigued, but told me to keep it under wraps, to focus on Nexus for now. It all clicked into place. The budget cuts were a lie. The restructuring was a lie. He hadn't fired me to save money. He fired me to steal my work. He got rid of me so he could claim my next masterpiece as his own, without having to pay me, without having to share the credit. He didn't just push me out of the company. He pushed me out, then reached back in, and ripped the very last idea from my mind. The despair I had been feeling curdled into something else. It was a cold, hard, diamond-sharp rage. He had taken my past. Now he was stealing my future. He thought he had erased me. He thought I was just another casualty of business. But he was wrong. He hadn't created a victim. He had created a competitor. That night, something inside me broke, and something new was forged in its place. I wasn't going to just find another job. I wasn't going to just survive. I was going to take back what was mine. I was going to build my project, my real project, and I was going to burn his stolen empire to the ground. This was personal now, very personal. My first call was to Sarah. Sarah was the marketing genius behind Nexus. She could sell water to a drowning man. She was fiercely loyal and brilliant, and she had been let go 2 weeks after I was, also for budget cuts. When I told her my theory about Chimera, there was a long silence on the other end of the phone. "That son of a," she whispered. "Leo, I'm in. Whatever you're planning, I'm in." My next call was to Ben, our former head of operations. Ben was a quiet, no-nonsense guy who knew how to turn an idea into a functioning reality. He knew logistics, finance, and how to stretch a dollar until it screamed. He'd been streamlined a month before me. He listened to my story without interruption. When I was done, he just said, "My garage is empty. We can start there. When do we begin?" And just like that, the 3 ghosts of Vance Tech were united. We had no money, no office, no resources. All we had was a garage, an old whiteboard, and a shared thirst for justice. We called our new, fledgling company Aegis. In the old myths, the Aegis was a shield of protection. We were going to be the shield for our own ideas, and a weapon against the man who had wronged us. The days that followed were the hardest of my life. We worked 18-hour days, fueled by cheap coffee and pizza. I coded until my vision blurred, rebuilding my project from memory, and improving it. I didn't just want to create Chimera. I wanted to create something so far beyond it, that Arthur's stolen version would look like a child's toy. Sarah worked her magic, networking with contacts, drumming up whispers of a new startup that was about to shake things up. Ben handled the nitty-gritty, setting up the legal framework for our company with almost no money, finding freelance work for us to do on the side, just to keep the lights on. It was a grueling, thankless existence. There were days I wanted to give up. The weight of it all was immense. I sold my car. I maxed out my credit cards. I was on the verge of foreclosure. But every time I felt like I was about to break, I would picture Arthur's face, that calm, dismissive smile as he uttered the words, "It's just business," and the fire inside me would roar back to life. We heard through the grapevine that Vance Tech was pouring millions into marketing Chimera. They were planning a massive launch event in 6 months. That was our deadline. We had 6 months to build a revolutionary piece of software from scratch, with no funding, and get it to market before the titan of the industry crushed us. The pressure was immense, but something incredible was happening in that dusty garage. We were free. There were no corporate meetings, no buzzwords, no politics. It was just pure, unadulterated creation. We were building something that was truly ours, on our own terms. We were a team, a real one, bound by trust and a common goal. As I was deep in the code one night, something occurred to me, a memory from my time at Vance Tech. A few years back, there was a major server scare, a potential breach. To solve it, I had built a backdoor into the core architecture of Nexus. It was a highly encrypted, deeply hidden administrative access point that only I knew about. It was meant to be a fail-safe, a way for me to perform emergency diagnostics and repairs if the whole system went down. After the crisis was averted, I had recommended we remove it, but Arthur had dismissed it. "Leave it," he'd said. "You never know when it might be useful." He had no idea how right he was. I told Sarah and Ben about it. The temptation was obvious. We could use that back door. We could access Vance Tech's system. We could sabotage Chimera from the inside. We could cripple their launch. It would be the perfect ironic revenge. Sarah looked at me, her expression serious. "Leo, if we do that, we become him. We'd be proving him right, that it really is just a dirty business." Ben nodded in agreement. "We beat him by being better, not by being him. Our product has to be our weapon." They were right. The thought of stooping to his level left a sour taste in my mouth. But the back door, it was still a key that could unlock a door we didn't even know existed. I wasn't going to use it for sabotage, but what if I could use it for information? With a deep sense of trepidation, I decided to take a look. I spent a whole night carefully bypassing the new security protocols they had layered on top, my fingers flying across the keyboard. It was like breaking into my own house. And then, I was in. I had access to the Vance Tech central servers. I wasn't looking for code to steal, or systems to crash. I was looking for the truth. I started digging into Arthur's internal emails and financial records, and what I found was so much worse than I could have ever imagined. Budget cuts was the biggest lie of all. The company's financials showed they were more profitable than ever. But I found another set of books, a hidden ledger. Arthur hadn't been streamlining the company. He'd been bleeding it dry. He was embezzling millions of dollars, funneling company money into offshore accounts, buying luxury cars, a yacht, a villa in Italy. The people he'd laid off, me, Sarah, Ben, and dozens of others, we weren't budget cuts. We were the cost of his greed. He'd fired us to cover the money he was stealing. He was gutting his own company from the inside out, and he was planning to use the launch of my stolen idea, Chimera, as a final massive cash out before the whole thing collapsed. My anger turned into ice. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about exposing a criminal. He wasn't just a ruthless businessman. He was a fraud. We now had a new plan, a much better one. We weren't going to attack Chimera. We were going to let Arthur launch it. We were going to let him stand on that big stage, in front of the world's media, and soak in the applause. And at the peak of his triumph, we were going to pull the rug out from under him. The day of the Vance Tech launch arrived. It was a huge media spectacle. Arthur was on stage, dressed in a sleek black suit, the very picture of a tech visionary. He was talking about integrity, about innovation, about building a better future. It was nauseating. He presented Chimera, and to the untrained eye, it was impressive. But I knew its flaws. I knew its limitations. I knew it was just a pale imitation of what we had built. We had worked around the clock to finish our product. Aegis was ready, and it was beautiful. It was faster, more secure, and more powerful than Chimera, in every conceivable way. But our launch wasn't going to be on a stage with spotlights and fancy graphics. As Arthur was wrapping up his presentation, basking in the glow of the flashing cameras, Sarah made her move. She had spent weeks cultivating relationships with key journalists and tech bloggers, the most respected and ruthless ones in the industry. She sent a single encrypted email. The subject line was simple: the real story behind Vance Tech. The email contained everything: the hidden ledgers, the bank statements from the offshore accounts, the internal emails where Arthur explicitly discussed his plan, and a side-by-side technical comparison of Chimera and our product, Aegis, complete with a link to our newly launched website, where anyone could try a free demo. We timed it perfectly. Just as Arthur was saying, Vance Tech is stronger and more honest than ever. The phones in the audience started to buzz. One by one, the journalists looked down, their eyes widening. A murmur spread through the auditorium. People started whispering, looking at Arthur on stage with new questioning eyes. His confident smile began to falter. He could feel the mood in the room shifting, but he didn't know why. Then, the first reporter stood up, a woman from a major tech journal, known for her take-no-prisoners style. "Mr. Vance," she said, her voice cutting through the air, "can you comment on the allegations of massive embezzlement and fraud that have just been leaked? Can you explain why you fired the core team behind Nexus, only to steal their next project while funneling millions of company funds into your personal accounts?" The color drained from Arthur's face. He looked like he'd been struck by lightning. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. More reporters stood up, shouting questions. The chaos erupted. His moment of triumph had become a public execution. The live stream, which was being broadcast globally, was capturing his utter implosion for the entire world to see. We watched it all unfold from a small rented office space, our new headquarters. We didn't cheer, we didn't celebrate, we just watched as the truth did its work. That evening, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered. It was him. "You," Arthur hissed. His voice was no longer calm and confident. It was venomous, filled with a raw, desperate hatred. "You did this." I took a deep breath. "You brought this on yourself, Arthur. I gave you everything." He screamed into the phone. "I made you." "No," I said, my voice steady and clear. "You tried to break me. You stole from me. You lied to me, and to everyone who trusted you. You threw me away like I was nothing." I could hear his ragged breathing. He was broken, defeated, and I had one last thing to say to him. "Don't take it personally, Arthur," I said, letting the words hang in the air. "It's just business." Then I hung up. The fallout was spectacular. Vance Tech's stock plummeted to zero overnight. The board of directors resigned in disgrace. Arthur Vance was arrested, and the subsequent investigation and trial were front-page news for months. His stolen project, Chimera, was dead on arrival, forever tainted by the scandal. And Aegis, our company, in the midst of the chaos, we were seen as the heroes of the story, the underdogs who had been wronged, and had fought back with the truth. Our product was genuinely superior, and the industry knew it. We were flooded with offers from investors and clients. We were able to hire back many of the other talented people Arthur had cast aside. We built our company on the principles he had pretended to have: honesty, integrity, and a genuine passion for innovation. Today, Aegis is a leader in the tech industry. I'm not working out of a garage anymore. I paid off my mortgage. My mom got the best medical care money could buy, and she's doing great. Sarah and Ben are my partners, and we run this company as a team, as a family. I sometimes think about Arthur. I don't hate him anymore. I almost pity him. He was a man who had everything but valued nothing. He taught me the most painful, but also the most valuable lesson of my life. He taught me that your work, your ideas, your integrity, they are not just business, they are you, and you should never ever let anyone take that away from you. He thought he was closing a chapter on my life, but all he did was force me to write a much, much better one. Thanks for listening to my story. It was a long and difficult journey, but one I wouldn't trade for anything. If you've ever felt wronged or underestimated, I hope this gives you a little bit of hope. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What would you have done in my situation? And if you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. It really helps us out. Until next time.